Look, I need to tell you something that happened 3 weeks ago that completely destroyed me. My 13-year-old son looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not my real father." And the worst part, I had a DNA test sitting in my desk drawer that could prove him wrong. A test I got done 7 years ago, a test I swore I'd never use, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning because this story doesn't make sense without context. And honestly, I'm still trying to process what the hell happened. My name is Marcus, I'm 41 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty normal life. Average marriage, decent job as an electrician, 2 kids, a mortgage I'm slowly drowning in. The American dream or whatever. I met my wife Rachel when I was 26. She was 24, working at a coffee shop downtown, and I was doing electrical work on the building next door. Classic story, right? I kept going back for coffee I didn't even like just to talk to her. We dated for 2 years before getting married. Everything felt right. She was funny, smart, ambitious. We wanted the same things, kids, a house, stability. Rachel got pregnant 6 months after the wedding. Now, before you start making assumptions, let me be clear about something. I was happy, genuinely, stupidly happy. We weren't trying, but we weren't not trying either. When she told me, I cried. Actually cried tears of joy like some character in a movie. We had our son, Ethan, 9 months later. He was perfect, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, had my nose, or so everyone said. People love to play that game with babies, pointing out whose features they have. Rachel's eyes, my chin, her mother's ears, whatever. The first few years were hard like they are for every new parent. Sleepless nights, endless diapers, the constant fear that you're somehow screwing up this tiny human, but we made it work. Rachel went back to work part-time after her maternity leave, and we figured out the daycare shuffle. Ethan was 3 when Rachel got pregnant again. Our daughter Lily, same deal, happy tears, excitement, all of it. Life moved forward, kids grew up. Rachel eventually became a marketing manager at some tech company, making more money than me, which honestly I was fine with. I picked up extra electrical jobs when I could. We bought a house in the suburbs with a backyard and a 2-car garage. From the outside, we looked like we had it figured out, but here's the thing about marriages. They're like houses with bad wiring. Everything works fine until one day suddenly it doesn't. Rachel and I started having problems when Ethan was about 5. Nothing dramatic at first, just the usual stress cracks. Arguments about money, about who was doing more housework, about whose career should take priority. We went to couples therapy for a few months. It helped We learned how to fight better, communicate more effectively, all that textbook relationship stuff. But there was this distance between us that never really closed. Like we were roommates who happened to have kids together rather than actual partners. Still, we pushed through because that's what you do when you have a mortgage and 2 kids and you've built a whole life together. You don't just throw it away because things aren't perfect. Ethan was always a good kid. Smart, athletic, popular at school. He played soccer and baseball, got decent grades, had friends over all the time. The kind of kid who made parenting look easy until he turned 12. Suddenly, my sweet kid who used to tell me everything became this moody stranger who barely spoke to me. I know teenage hormones and all that. Every parent goes through it. But with Ethan, it felt different. It wasn't just normal teenage angst. There was this anger directed specifically at me. He'd talk to Rachel fine. Joked around with his sister. But with me? One-word answers, eye rolls, slamming doors. I tried everything. Offered to shoot hoops, suggested we go fishing like we used to. Tried to talk to him about school or friends or whatever. Nothing worked. Rachel kept saying it was a phase. He's 13, Marcus. All teenage boys hate their dads for a while. He'll grow out of it, but it kept getting worse. He started skipping our father-son activities. When I'd try to help with homework, he'd snap at me. When I'd ask about his day, he'd walk away mid-sentence. It was like living with someone who despised me and I had no idea why. Then about 4 months ago, something changed. I was putting away laundry in Ethan's room while he was at soccer practice. I wasn't snooping, I swear. But his laptop was open on his desk and I saw it. A Google search history pulled up on the screen. How to know if your dad is really your dad. Do I look like my father? Signs you might be adopted. DNA test without parents knowing. My stomach dropped. Just completely fell through the floor. I stood there staring at that screen for probably 10 minutes, trying to process what I was seeing. Why would Ethan think I wasn't his father? Where did this even come from? I closed the laptop and finished putting away his laundry with shaking hands. My mind was racing through every possible explanation. Had someone said something to him? Did he overhear a conversation? Was there something about his appearance that didn't match mine and Rachel's? I looked at the photos on his wall. Pictures of us at baseball games, family vacations, his birthday parties. In every single one, I was there. I'd been there for everything. His first steps, his first day of school, every scraped knee and bad dream. I was his father. Of course I was his father, but that night, after everyone went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those searches on his computer about why a 13-year-old kid would suddenly question his paternity. And then, because I'm apparently a glutton for punishment, I started thinking about the timeline. Ethan was born in October, which meant Rachel got pregnant in January 14 years ago. I tried to remember what was happening in our lives then. We'd been married 6 months. I was working long hours on a big commercial project. Rachel was still at the coffee shop, but talking about going back to school. Were there any red flags? Any signs? I racked my brain trying to remember. There was a work trip Rachel took that February to some marketing conference, but that was after she was already pregnant. There was a brief period where she seemed distant, but I'd attributed it to wedding stress and adjusting to marriage. Nothing concrete, nothing that screamed affair, but once that thought entered my head, I couldn't get it out. I didn't confront Rachel immediately. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I started watching her, checking her phone when she was in the shower, looking through her emails, going through old photo albums and social media posts from 14 years ago. I felt disgusting doing it, like I was betraying her trust, violating our marriage, but I needed to know. And you know what I found? Nothing. Absolutely nothing suspicious, no secret messages, no mysterious male friends, no gaps in her schedule that couldn't be explained. But that almost made it worse because I still had no answer for why Ethan was searching those things. 2 weeks of this torture passed. I was barely sleeping, constantly distracted at work, snapping at everyone. Finally, Rachel noticed. "What's going on with you?" she asked one night after the kids went to bed. "You've been weird for weeks," I almost told her. The words were right there, ready to come out. But instead I said, "Just stressed about work, big job coming up," but she looked at me like she didn't quite believe it, but didn't push further. That night, I made a decision. I ordered a DNA test online. One of those paternity test kits you can do at home, paid extra for rush shipping. I told myself I was doing it to prove Ethan wrong, to have concrete evidence that I was his father so I could put his fears to rest. But deep down, I think part of me needed to know for sure. The kit arrived 3 days later. Rachel was at work, kids were at school. I stood in my kitchen holding this small box that potentially contained the answer to a question I never wanted to ask. The instructions were simple: cheek swabs for me and Ethan, seal them in the provided containers, mail them back. I did my swab immediately, then sealed it and put it in the box. For Ethan's sample, I'd have to wait. I couldn't just walk up to him and ask for a cheek swab without explaining why. I needed to be discreet. That night, I volunteered to do the dishes. While everyone was distracted watching TV, I grabbed Ethan's fork from dinner before it went in the dishwasher. According to my frantic Googling, saliva from utensils could work for DNA testing, though it wasn't as reliable as a proper swab, but it was better than nothing. I sealed the fork in a plastic bag, packaged everything up, and mailed it the next morning. The waiting was agony. The lab said results would take 7 to 10 business days. I couldn't focus on anything. I was physically present, but mentally absent. Rachel kept asking if I was okay. Ethan continued giving me the cold shoulder. Lily was the only one acting normal, blissfully unaware that her father was having a complete mental breakdown. Exactly 9 days later, I got an email notification that my results were ready. I was at work, up on a ladder installing new lighting in an office building. My phone buzzed. I nearly fell off the ladder when I saw the subject line. Your DNA test results are ready. I climbed down so fast I probably violated several safety protocols. Told my coworker I was feeling sick and needed to leave. Sat in my truck in the parking lot with trembling hands. This was it, the moment of truth. I clicked the link, entered my password, waited for the page to load. And there it was, in bold text at the top of the report. Probability of paternity, Beifinger, Jolser Jolder Joju. I was Ethan's biological father. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming. I actually started crying right there in my truck. Big, ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs. I was his dad. Of course I was his dad. I'd been torturing myself for weeks over nothing. But then the relief faded and I was left with a new problem. Why did Ethan think otherwise? And what the hell was I supposed to do with this information? I saved the DNA results to my laptop and printed a copy that I locked in my desk drawer at home. I told myself it was just for safekeeping, in case Ethan ever asked about it directly. But I didn't tell Rachel, didn't tell Ethan, didn't tell anyone, because how do you explain to your wife that you secretly DNA tested your son? How do you admit that you questioned whether he was really yours? So I buried it, pretended it never happened. Tried to go back to normal life, but things with Ethan continued to deteriorate. He stopped calling me dad, just stopped. If he needed to get my attention, he'd say Marcus or just hey. Every time he did it, it felt like a knife in my chest. I tried to talk to him about it once, asked him straight up, why don't you call me dad anymore? He just shrugged. Because why? Because you're not. My heart stopped. What do you mean I'm not? Forget it, he mumbled and walked away. I wanted to chase after him to force him to explain what he meant, but Rachel called me into the kitchen for something, and the moment passed. Things came to a head 3 weeks ago. It was a Saturday. I'd been trying to fix the garbage disposal while Ethan played video games in the living room. Rachel was out with Lily at a birthday party. I needed an extra pair of hands to hold the flashlight while I worked under the sink. Ethan, can you come help me for a second? No response. Ethan, I'm busy. It'll take 2 minutes. I just need you to hold the flashlight. Heavy footsteps. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking annoyed. What? Parasan Trievue. Just hold this, I said, handing him the flashlight, pointed under the sink. He did it, but with this attitude that made it clear he'd rather be anywhere else. We worked in silence for a minute. I was trying to loosen a stuck pipe fitting, cursing under my breath. Can you angle it more to the left? He adjusted slightly. More? This is stupid, he muttered. What was that? I said, this is stupid. Why do I have to help you with this? Because I'm your father and I asked you to. I said, my patient's wearing thin. That's when he said it. You're not my real father. Time stopped. I froze under the sink, wrench in hand, unable to move. What did you just say? You heard me. You're not my real father. I pulled myself out from under the sink and stood up, facing him. Where is this coming from, Ethan? Why would you say that? He had this look on his face. Defiant but also uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he should have said it out loud. I just know, okay? I've known for a while. Known what? That's not true. I am your father, Father. What made you think otherwise? It doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. Tell me what's going on. He set down the flashlight, crossed his arms, looked me dead in the eyes. I heard Mom talking on the phone a few months ago. She was in the garage, thought nobody was home, but I came back early from Jake's house. My blood went cold. What did you hear? She was talking to someone about the mistakes she made and how Marcus could never know and something about that January. I put it together. She cheated on you, didn't she? And I'm not actually yours. Everything he was saying sounded bad, really bad, but I knew it wasn't true. I had proof sitting in my desk drawer. Ethan, listen to me. I don't want to listen to you. You've been lying to me my whole life. You and Mom both. We haven't been lying. Then why did she say you can never know? What secret is she keeping? He had tears in his eyes now. My son, my boy who hadn't cried in front of me in years, was standing in our kitchen with tears streaming down his face. There's a lot you don't understand, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But I promise you, I am your father, biologically, legally, every way that matters. You're lying, I'm not. Prove it then, and there it was, the moment I'd been dreading and somehow anticipating for weeks. You want me to prove it? Yeah, if you're really my dad, prove it. I could have told him about the test right then. Could have gone upstairs, grabbed the results from my desk, and shown him the Bifincher Joju probability of paternity. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was anger at being questioned. Maybe it was hurt that my son, who I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for, doubted me. I don't need to prove anything to you, I said. I was there when you were born. I've been there every single day of your life. That should be proof enough. That doesn't mean anything. He shot back. Lots of guys raise kids that aren't theirs and don't even know it. Where are you getting this from? What have you been reading online? His face flushed. I haven't been reading anything. Don't lie to me, Ethan. I'm not stupid. No, you're just not my dad. He turned and ran upstairs. A door slammed. The house shook. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by tools and parts from the half-fixed garbage disposal, feeling like my entire world had just collapsed. When Rachel got home with Lily an hour later, she found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. Hey, what happened to the disposal? I thought you were fixing it. I couldn't even look at her. Marcus, what's wrong? We need to talk. Those 4 words. The relationship killers. Lily ran upstairs, oblivious. Rachel sat down across from me. What happened? Ethan told me I'm not his real father today. Her face went white, like completely drained of color. He what? He said he overheard you on the phone months ago, talking about a mistake you made, something I can never know about, something from January. He thinks you cheated on me and that he's not my biological son. Rachel's hand went to her mouth. She looked genuinely shocked. Oh my God, is it true? I asked, even though I knew the answer. Did you cheat on me? What? No, Marcus, no, I never cheated on you. Then what was that phone call about? What mistake? What secret? She closed her eyes, took a long, shaky breath. I was talking to my sister, okay, about something that happened before we got married, before we even started dating. I'm listening. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw fear in her eyes. You know I dated someone before you, Tyler. We were together for 2 years before we broke up. I nodded. I knew about Tyler, high school sweetheart, broke up right before she started at the coffee shop. What I never told you was that we broke up because I got pregnant. The room started spinning. You were pregnant for about 8 weeks. I found out right after we broke up for other reasons. I didn't tell him, didn't tell my parents. Only my sister knew what happened. I had a miscarriage January that year. It was horrible and traumatic, and I dealt with it alone because I was too ashamed to tell anyone. Rachel, then I met you that March, and you were so good and so kind, and I fell in love with you. But I never told you about the pregnancy or the miscarriage because I was scared you'd judge me or think I was damaged goods. Tears were running down her face now. When I got pregnant with Ethan, I had this irrational fear that I was being punished, that something would go wrong because of what happened before. I had terrible anxiety the whole pregnancy. I was talking to my sister about it constantly, processing that old trauma. The phone call Ethan heard must have been one of those conversations. We were talking about that January, about the mistake I made in hiding the pregnancy from Tyler, about how I'd never told you and felt guilty about it. That's the secret. That's what you can never know. I sat back in my chair processing this. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it was before us. It felt like it didn't matter. And the longer I went without telling you, the harder it became. How do you bring up something like that after years of marriage? You just do, I said. You just tell me, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but Marcus, I never cheated on you. Ethan is absolutely 100% your son. I don't know how to make him believe that. Here's the thing, I believed her completely. The story made sense, fit with what Ethan had overheard, and explained everything. But I still didn't tell her about the DNA test, because admitting I'd done, that meant admitting I doubted her. And in that moment, with her crying at our kitchen table, I couldn't bring myself to confess. We need to talk to Ethan, I said. Together, we need to explain this to him. Okay, yes. Let's do that. We went upstairs to his room, knocked on the door. Go away. Ethan, it's Mom and Dad. We need to talk to you. I said, go away. Rachel and I looked at each other. She tried the door, locked. Ethan, please. We can explain everything. Silence. Your mom is going to tell you something that she should have told me a long time ago. It'll explain what you heard. More silence. We're not leaving until you open this door. Finally, we heard movement. The lock clicked. The door opened. Nud Weber. The door opened. Ethan stood there, eyes red from crying, looking younger than his 13 years. We went into his room. Rachel sat on the bed next to him. I leaned against the desk, and she told him everything. The whole story about Tyler, the pregnancy, the miscarriage, the fear and shame, the phone calls with her aunt. Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he looked at me. Is that true? It is. Your mom and I just talked about this for the first time downstairs. I had no idea about any of it. So you are my dad? Yes, absolutely yes. He looked back at Rachel. You swear you're not lying? I swear on everything. You are Marcus's son. There's no doubt. Then why did you say he can never know? Because I was ashamed of hiding it for so long. I thought he'd be angry that I kept something from him. Ethan sat there processing. I could see the gears turning in his head. So I've been a jerk to you for months for no reason, he said quietly, looking at me. You had a reason. It wasn't the right reason, but you thought you had one. I'm sorry. Those 2 words broke something in me. I went over and hugged him, and he actually hugged me back for the first time in months. It's okay. We're okay. Rachel joined the hug. We stood there in Ethan's messy teenage bedroom, the 3 of us holding on to each other. That should have been the end of it. Crisis resolved, family reconciled, everyone moves forward, but I still had that DNA test in my desk. And over the next 2 weeks, it started eating at me, not because I doubted the results. I knew Ethan was mine, but because I'd done it in secret. Because I'd doubted Rachel, even if just for a moment. Because I'd violated my son's privacy by taking his DNA without permission. It felt like this dark secret hovering over our supposedly resolved crisis. Rachel and I were doing better. We talked more, were more honest with each other. The whole situation had forced us to communicate in ways we hadn't in years. Ethan was back to calling me Dad. Things weren't perfect, but they were improving daily. But I couldn't shake this guilt. I almost told Rachel a dozen times. Would open my mouth to say it, then chicken out at the last second, until finally I couldn't take it anymore. It was a Thursday night. Kids were both at friends' houses. Rachel and I were having dinner together, just the two of us, for the first time in weeks. I need to tell you something, I said. She looked up from her pasta. Okay. After I saw those searches on Ethan's computer before the fight in the kitchen, I did something I'm not proud of. Hamdadadan, her expression changed. Guarded. What did you do? I got a DNA test for me and Ethan. She put down her fork, stared at me. You what? I ordered one of those home DNA kits. I was going crazy wondering why he was searching those things, wondering if maybe there was something you weren't telling me. I know I should have just talked to you, but I couldn't. So I took his DNA from a fork and sent it in with mine, one about 7 weeks ago. I got the results back a few weeks before the fight, and Bivaner Jojol and Jojo match. He's definitely mine. Not that I really doubted it, but seeing it in writing helped. Rachel was quiet for a long time, too long. Say something, I said. Werner referentur and what telling me? Say something, I said. I don't know what to say, Marcus. You tested our son without telling me? Without telling him? I know it was wrong. Do you? Because this is actually insane. You've violated his privacy. You went behind my back. You doubted me, even though I'd given you no reason to. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Sorry. Doesn't undo it. Does Ethan know? No. Are you going to tell him? Should I? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't know, Marcus. You're the one who did this. You figure it out. She got up and left the table, went upstairs. I heard our bedroom door close. I sat there alone, surrounded by half-eaten pasta and the consequences of my choices. Rachel didn't speak to me for 3 days, slept on the couch, talked to the kids but barely acknowledged me. I deserved it. I knew I deserved it. On the third night, she finally came into our bedroom where I was pretending to read. I've been thinking, she said, okay, what you did was a violation of me, of Ethan, of our family. I know, but I also understand why you did it. You were scared and confused and you handled it badly, but I get it. I waited. Bikbramander sapashu lekt and sure. We need to tell Ethan shu ira pakt. We need to tell Ethan, she said. Together. He deserves to know. Are you sure? No. But keeping more secrets is what got us into this mess in the first place. So that's what we did. Saturday morning, we sat Ethan down again. Same room, same bed, different conversation. We need to tell you something else. I started. He looked nervous. What now? Before we knew about your mom's past, before the fight in the kitchen, I saw those searches on your computer about paternity tests. You went through my computer? I wasn't snooping. Your laptop was open. But yes, I saw them and they freaked me out. So I ordered a DNA test. For you and me. His expression was hard to read. Surprised, maybe, angry, hurt. You tested me. I did. Without telling you, without asking permission. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. What did it say? That I'm your biological father. Bifinger Jolster Joldern Jojo probability. You have proof? Yes. It's in my desk if you want to see it. He was quiet for a minute, processing. Why didn't you show me this during the fight? When I asked you to prove it? Good question. When I'd asked myself 100 times, pride maybe? Or hurt? You're my son. Having you doubt that felt like you were doubting everything we've ever had together. I wanted you to believe me based on trust, not based on a piece of paper. That's stupid, he said. Yeah, it was, but you had proof the whole time. I did. Why tell me now? Because your mom's right. Keeping secrets is what caused all of this. If we're going to move forward as a family, we need to be honest with each other, even when that honesty makes us look bad. Ethan looked at Rachel, then back at me. Can I see it? The test results? Of course. We went to my office. I pulled out the folder with the DNA results, handed it to him. He read through it slowly, carefully, studied every number and chart. So you really are my dad. I really am. I really am. I'm sorry I said you weren't, and I'm sorry I tested you without asking. He handed the papers back to me. Can we just be normal now, please? Rachel laughed. I don't think this family has ever been normal. Then can we at least try? Yeah, I said, we can definitely try. That was 3 weeks ago. Things aren't perfect. We still have rough days. Ethan still gets moody and distant sometimes. But now I know it's just regular teenage stuff. Not doubt about our relationship. Rachel and I are working through things. The whole experience forced us to actually communicate, to be vulnerable with each other. Turns out we'd both been keeping stupid secrets for stupid reasons. We started seeing a family therapist, all 4 of us together. Lily had no idea what was going on during all of this, but she knew something was wrong, and she had her own feelings about it. Last week, Ethan asked if he could keep the DNA test results. Why? I asked. He shrugged. I don't know. Proof, I guess, that I'm yours and you're mine. You don't need a piece of paper for that, I know. But I want it anyway. So now those results are hanging on his wall, right next to his soccer medals and school photos. My son kept a DNA test as a memento. What a weird, broken, beautiful family we are. Here's what I learned from all of this. Secrets are poison. Doesn't matter how small or insignificant they seem. They grow and mutate and eventually explode in your face. Rachel's secret about her past wasn't even about me, but keeping it caused a chain reaction that nearly destroyed our family. My secret about the DNA test was done out of fear, but it was still a betrayal. Ethan's secret suspicions could have been resolved immediately if he'd just asked us instead of suffering alone. We were all keeping parts of ourselves hidden from each other while living under the same roof. That's not a family, that's just people existing in proximity. Communication is hard, being vulnerable is terrifying. Admitting you were wrong feels like swallowing glass, but it's necessary. The alternative is what we were doing. Slow decay, death by 1,000 tiny secrets and unspoken resentments. I also learned that proof isn't always the answer. I had that DNA test in my drawer for weeks before the confrontation. Had concrete scientific evidence that Ethan was my son, but when he challenged me, I didn't want to use it. Because our relationship shouldn't need proof, it should be built on something stronger than genetics. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I eventually showed him. It gave him peace of mind, settled his doubts in a way words couldn't. But the real healing didn't come from a piece of paper. It came from us finally being honest with each other. A few days ago, Ethan and I were working on the garbage disposal again. The same one I'd been trying to fix during our fight. Hand me that wrench, I said. He passed it to me, a little more light. He adjusted the flashlight. We worked in comfortable silence for a few minutes, then, "Kiddo, Dad? Yeah, I'm sorry I was such a jerk for so long. We've been over this, it's fine, no, I mean, I knew you were probably my real dad, deep down. I think I just wanted an explanation for why I felt so angry all the time. I stopped working and looked at him angry about what? I don't know, everything, growing up, changing, eh? Not knowing who I'm supposed to be. Yeah, there it was. The real issue under all of this. Being 13 is beer, purpling prash. Being 13 is hard, I said. That's what everyone says because it's true. You're not a kid anymore, but you're not quite an adult either. Everything's changing, including you. It's confusing and scary. Is that how it was for you? Absolutely. I was a nightmare at your age. Ask Grandma sometime. He smiled a little at that. The thing is, I continued, you don't have to figure out who you are all at once. You've got time and you've got us, me and your mom and Lily. We're here for the whole messy process. Even when I'm a jerk, especially when you're a jerk, we finished fixing the disposal. It actually worked this time. As Ethan was leaving the kitchen, he stopped. "Hey, Dad." "Yeah, Nyber no Schrappen Braven, thanks for not giving up on me." "Yeah, thanks for not giving up on me. Even when I was being terrible, that's the job," I said, "being your dad. No matter what, that's always going to be the job." He nodded and headed upstairs. I'm writing this all down because I want to remember it. Not the pain or the doubt, but the lesson. Family is messy, love is complicated, parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done. But it's also the most important. Ethan is my son, not because of DNA or genetics or biology, though those things are true. He's my son because I chose him from the moment he was born, because I've shown up every single day, because even when he pushed me away, I stayed. That DNA test sits on his wall now, but it's not really about the science, it's about the promise that I'm his father and he's my son, and nothing will ever change that. Not doubts, not secrets, not teenage angst, not anything. Rachel and I talk about it sometimes late at night after the kids are asleep. "Do you think he'll hate us when he's older?" she asks. "For all of this?" "Maybe," I say. "Probably for a little while. That's what kids do. We really screwed up, yeah, but we fixed it, mostly. Do you ever wish you'd just shown him the test during the fight instead of waiting?" "Sometimes. Would have saved us a lot of drama, but maybe we needed the drama. Maybe we needed to fall apart a little so we could actually deal with our stuff." She thinks about this. That's a very therapy-appropriate answer, I'm learning. We lie there in the dark, listening to the house settle around us. "Do you regret doing the test?" she asks after a while. I think about it, really think about it. "No," I say finally. "I regret how I did it. Behind your back without telling Ethan, but the test itself? No. I needed that certainty. Even if I hated myself for needing it, I get that now. I was so angry at first, but I get it. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I gave you reason to. If I just told you about the miscarriage from the beginning, none of this would have happened. You don't know that. Ethan still might have overheard something and jumped to conclusions. Kids are good at that." She rolls over to face me. "We're going to be okay, right? All of us?" "Yeah," I say. "We're going to be okay." And I actually believe it. Last weekend, we had a family dinner. Nothing special, just the four of us around the table eating takeout pizza. Lily was talking about some drama at school, something about friendship bracelets and who was mad at who. Rachel was laughing at the absurdity of fifth-grade politics. Ethan was on his phone, half listening, occasionally contributing to the conversation. And I just sat there watching them, my family, and felt this overwhelming sense of gratitude. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. We still had issues to work through, old wounds that hadn't fully healed. But because we were there, together, trying Earth to Marcus, Rachel said, waving her hand in front of my face. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted the last slice. Oh, no, you take it. You okay? She asked, giving me that look that said she knew I was thinking about something. Yeah, I said, just happy. Ethan looked up from his phone. That's random, is it? Can't a guy just be happy, I guess? Your dad's being sentimental again, Rachel said to the kids. Just let him have his moment. Gross, Lily said, but she was smiling. We finished dinner. Ethan actually helped clean up without being asked. Small victories. The therapist told us something interesting last session. Families aren't meant to be perfect, she said. They're meant to be real. The struggle isn't the problem. How you handle the struggle is what matters. We'd all been sitting there in her office, the four of us on this couch that was slightly too small, and I remember thinking that was exactly right. We'd handled things badly at first, kept secrets, made assumptions, hurt each other, made hurt, but when it mattered, we came together, we told the truth even when it was hard. We forgave each other even when we didn't have to. That's the thing about family. You get to keep trying, keep failing and fixing and failing again. There's no final test you pass, no moment where you suddenly have it all figured out. It's just day after day of showing up and doing your best. Ethan came to me last Tuesday with a question. Dad, can I ask you something weird? Sure, what made you want to be a dad? Like, before I was born, were you scared? We were in the garage. I was organizing tools. He was supposedly helping, but mostly just standing there, terrified, I said honestly. Your mom and I had no idea what we were doing, but you did it anyway. We did it anyway. Because some things are worth being scared of. What if you're bad at it? Then you learn, you make mistakes and you fix them and you try not to make the same mistakes twice. He was quiet for a minute, moving wrenches around on the workbench without any real purpose. I think I want to be a dad someday, he said quietly. My heart did this weird flip thing. Yeah? Yeah. But like a good one, like you. I had to turn away for a second because my eyes got wet and I didn't want him to see. You'll be better than me, I said when I could talk again. You'll learn from all my mistakes. What mistakes, kid? We don't have enough time for that list, he laughed. Actually laughed seriously, though, I said. You're going to be a great dad someday if that's what you want. You've got time to figure it out. Do you think you're a good dad? Loaded question. Dangerous territory. I think I'm trying to be. Some days I succeed, some days I fail spectacularly, but I never stop trying. That's probably good enough from your mouth to God's ears, kid. We went back to organizing tools, but something had shifted, some weight had lifted. My son wanted to be a father someday, wanted to be like me despite everything. That felt like winning. Rachel started therapy on her own too, separate from the family sessions. She needed to process the miscarriage, the shame she'd carried for all those years, the guilt of keeping secrets. I thought I'd dealt with it, she told me one night. The miscarriage, it was so long ago. But talking about it with my therapist, I realized I never actually processed it. I just buried it. That seems to be a family talent, I said. She smiled sadly. We're good at hiding things, aren't we? We're past tense, we're working on it, are we though? Really? I think so. Look at us. We're having this conversation. A few months ago, we barely talked at all. She was right. We'd been living parallel lives, intersecting only when necessary for kid logistics or household management. It's better now, I said. It is, she agreed. Weird how almost losing everything makes you appreciate what you have. Not recommended as a relationship strategy, though. No, definitely not. We were in bed, the TV on, but neither of us really watching, just existing together in the same space, which somehow felt revolutionary after everything. I'm glad you told me, she said, about the test, even though I was angry. I'm glad I told you too. Even though you were angry, we're really bad at this whole communication thing. We're learning, though. That counts for something. She reached over and took my hand. Promise me something. What? Even little ones, even ones that seem insignificant. If something's bothering you, tell me. If you're scared or confused or angry, tell me. I promise. I'm serious, Marcus. I know, I promise. No more secrets. We fell asleep like that, holding hands like teenagers, like we were starting over. In a way, I guess we were. Lily asked me about it last week. Daddy, why was everyone so sad last week? Daddy, why was everyone so sad for a while? We were doing a puzzle together, just the two of us. Rachel had taken Ethan to a soccer tournament. What do you mean, sweetheart? A few weeks ago, everyone was sad and nobody would tell me why. I'd forgotten that she was only 10. Old enough to sense when something was wrong, but young enough that we thought we could hide it from her. Your brother and I were having some problems, I said carefully, but we worked them out. What kind of problems? Just misunderstandings. Sometimes people who love each other get confused about things. Was he mad at you? Yeah, for a little while. Why? How do you explain this to a 10-year-old? How do you tell her that her brother doubted his paternity, that your marriage almost imploded, that the whole family nearly fell apart? The purr, Stabir, Doffer first, Snatsti. You don't. You simplify. He thought I wasn't being honest with him about something. Turns out we were both not being honest with each other. Did you say sorry? I did. And he said sorry too, and now everything's okay. Now everything's better, not perfect, but better. She considered this while carefully placing a puzzle piece. I think better is good enough, she said. Out of the mouths of babes. You're absolutely right, Lilybug. Better is good enough. I went back to that website recently, the one where I ordered the DNA test. I don't know why. Morbid curiosity, maybe wanting to see what other people were going through. The reviews were heartbreaking. Hundreds of them, thousands. Men finding out kids weren't theirs. Women discovering their partners had other families. People learning their whole lives were built on lies, and I realized how lucky we were. Not because the test confirmed Ethan was mine, though obviously that mattered, but because it forced us to confront our issues before they destroyed us completely, Rachel's hidden trauma, my inability to communicate when I was scared, Ethan's teenage confusion about identity, our collective tendency to bury problems instead of addressing them. The DNA test was just a symptom. The real disease was deeper, but we caught it, barely, messily, painfully, but we caught it. Some of those people leaving reviews, they didn't catch it in time. I read one from a guy whose son was 17. Found out after all those years that the kid wasn't his. Wife had been lying for nearly 2 decades. He was devastated, not just about the biology, but about the time, all those years of not knowing, of living a lie. I thought about that a lot. What if I'd never seen those searches on Ethan's computer? What if I'd never gotten the test done? What if we just kept going, secret piling on secret, until something bigger broke us? We got lucky. That's the truth of it. We got lucky that Ethan overheard that phone call. Lucky that he confronted me. Lucky that Rachel's secret was ultimately innocent. Lucky that the DNA test confirmed what we needed it to confirm. Take away any one of those lucky breaks, and this story ends very differently. My dad called me last week. We don't talk often. He's not great with emotional stuff, never has been. Your mother told me you and Rachel were having problems, he said. Everything okay now? Yeah, Dad. We worked through it good. That's good. Marriage is hard. Coming from him, that was practically a TED Talk. How did you and Mom make it work? I asked. All these years? He was quiet for a long time. I thought maybe he'd hung up. We almost didn't, he said finally. Came close to divorce when you were about 10. This was news to me. Complete news. I had no idea. That was the point. Kids shouldn't have to know everything. But yeah, we had a rough few years. I was working too much. She was lonely. We stopped talking to each other like partners. What changed? We went to counseling. I didn't want to, you know how I am about that stuff, but your mother insisted. Best thing we ever did. Hunna point is every marriage hits rough patches. Question is whether you're willing to do the work to get through them. We're doing the work. Then you'll be fine. You're a good man, Marcus. Better than I was at your age. Your kids are lucky to have you. He hung up before I could respond. That's his way. Drop an emotional bomb and then retreat before dealing with the fallout. But it meant something hearing that, knowing my own parents had struggled too, that they'd almost given up but chose to keep trying. And maybe that's what family is, just choosing each other over and over, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard. Ethan made the honor roll last quarter, first time all year. We took him out to celebrate his choice of restaurant. He picked this burger place he loves. Sitting in that booth, watching him demolish a cheeseburger while telling us about his classes, I had this moment of clarity. This was what mattered, not the drama, not the secrets, not the fear and doubt, this right here, right here. My kid, happy and healthy and doing well. I'm proud of you, I said. He looked up, surprised. For what? For working hard, for doing better in school, for giving us another chance after everything. Dad, you're being weird again. Let him be weird, Rachel said. He's earned it. Lily threw a French fry at Ethan. He threw one back. Rachel told them both to stop. We all laughed. Normal, perfectly normal family chaos. I'd take it over perfect any day. The thing nobody tells you about parenting is that you're basically winging it all the time. There's no manual, no guidebook that actually prepares you for the reality of it. You make decisions based on incomplete information and hope they're right. You screw up constantly. You hurt your kids' feelings without meaning to. You miss important moments because you're distracted by work or bills or your own problems. And then you have to forgive yourself and try again. That's the part I'm still learning. The self-forgiveness, I beat myself up for months over that DNA test. Felt like a terrible person for doubting my son, for not trusting my wife. But the therapist keeps reminding me, I'm human, I make mistakes. What matters is what I do after the mistake. I owned it, apologized, made amends, promised to do better. That has to be enough. Because if I keep punishing myself forever, I'll miss what's happening right now. And right now is pretty good. We're planning a family vacation this summer, first real one in years. Rachel wants to go to the beach. Ethan wants to go somewhere with hiking. Lily wants to go anywhere with a pool. I don't care where we go as long as we're together. You're being sentimental again, Rachel teased when I said that. Rachel teased when I said that, maybe. So what? So nothing. It's actually kind of sweet. We were looking at vacation rentals on her laptop late at night after the kids were asleep. What about this one, she asked, pointing to a place in North Carolina. Beach access and hiking trails. Best of both worlds, perfect. You didn't even look at it, don't need to. If you think it's good, it's good. She closed the laptop and looked at me, really looked at me. We're going to be okay, aren't we? She asked again, same question as before, but different somehow. We are, I said. We really are, and I meant it. Here's what I wish I could tell my past self. The guy standing in his kitchen 7 weeks ago, ordering a DNA test at midnight, it's going to hurt. Really hurt. Worse than you think. You're going to question everything. Your marriage, your son, yourself. You're going to feel like a failure and a fraud and the worst father in the world. But you're going to get through it. Your family is stronger than you think. Love is more resilient than you give it credit for. The pain is temporary. The growth is permanent. That test sitting in your Amazon cart, it's going to cause problems. But it's also going to solve them. So order it, face your fears, deal with the consequences. Because on the other side of this mess is something better than what you have now. A real relationship with your son, honest communication with your wife. A family that actually talks to each other instead of hiding behind polite pleasantries. It's worth it, I promise. Ethan asked if he could take down the DNA test results last night. Why? I asked. Thought you wanted to keep them. I did, but I don't need them anymore. You sure? Yeah. I know you're my dad. Don't need a piece of paper to prove it. He took them down and handed them to me. What should we do with them? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to keep them as a reminder of what we'd been through, but Ethan was right. We didn't need them anymore. Shred them, I said. Really, really? That chapter's over. We went down to my office, fed the papers through the shredder, watched them turn into confetti. Feel better? I asked. Yeah, he said. Actually, yeah, we stood there for a minute, looking at the shredded paper in the bin. Hey, Dad. Yeah, thanks for being patient with me, even when I was being impossible. That's what dads do, still. Thanks. He gave me a quick hug, the kind teenage boys give, brief and awkward but genuine, and then headed back upstairs. I stayed in my office a little longer, looking at those shredded papers. All that fear and doubt and anxiety reduced to strips of meaningless paper. Maybe that's how healing works. You take the thing that hurt you, break it down into something small and manageable, and throw it away. You keep the lessons, discard the pain, move forward. Rachel found me there a few minutes later. You okay? Yeah. Just thinking about how different things could have been if I'd handled this all differently from the start. She came and stood next to me looking at the shredder. You can't think like that. It happened the way it happened. We dealt with it the best we could, I know, but still no buts. We're here now. That's what matters. She was right. She's usually right. When did you get so wise? I asked therapy. Highly recommend it. We laughed and went back upstairs together. I'm writing this now, late at night, while everyone's asleep. Not because I need to document it or process it anymore. I think I've done enough of that. But because maybe someone else needs to read it. Some other dad out there, scared and confused, wondering if he should order that test. Some other mom, keeping secrets she thinks will protect people. Some other kid questioning where they belong. Here's what I'd tell them. Truth is painful, but lies are worse. Tests and proof and scientific certainty have their place, but they're not substitutes for trust and communication. Family isn't about biology, it's about choice, showing up, staying, even when it's hard. You're going to make mistakes, big ones. You're going to hurt the people you love most. But if you're willing to face those mistakes, own them, and work to fix them, you might be okay. Not perfect, never perfect, but okay, better real. Ethan's light just came on. I can see it under his door from the hallway. He's probably on his phone scrolling through social media when he should be sleeping, normal 13-year-old stuff. Part of me wants to go tell him to turn it off and go to bed. But instead, I'm just going to let him be because he's my son, I'm his father. And sometimes the best thing you can do as a parent, is just let your kid exist without hovering over them. Tomorrow we'll have breakfast together. Rachel will complain about work. Lily will talk about her upcoming field trip. Ethan will be moody and teenage and probably ask for money. It'll be ordinary, mundane, beautiful. Everything I almost lost, everything I'm grateful to still have. The DNA test said Bifinger, Jolser, Joju, probability of paternity. But you know what? I'm going with Bifinger not because of science, but because I say so. Ethan is my son, completely, totally, unquestionably mine, not because we share genes, though we do, but because I chose him every single day for 13 years. And I'll keep choosing him every day for the rest of my life. That's what makes me his father. Not biology, not proof, not certainty, choice, love, commitment, the willingness to show up even when he hates me, to stay even when he pushes me away, to fight for our relationship even when it feels impossible. That's fatherhood, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Rachel just came to check on me. You coming to bed? Yeah, in a minute. What are you doing? Just writing some stuff down for myself about everything that happened? Yeah, she kissed the top of my head. Don't stay up too late, I won't. She went back to our room. I heard the bed creak as she got in my family. My wife, my son, my daughter, imperfect and complicated and sometimes infuriating, and completely, utterly mine. I'm going to finish this now and go to bed. Tomorrow life continues. Work, school, bills, responsibilities, all the ordinary things that make up a life, but I'll face them differently than I did before. With honesty instead of secrets, communication instead of assumptions,